Hi, lovely. Thank you for reaching out and for asking your questions. I thought they were really important, and I'm happy to answer them for you. I'll be completely honest, there isn't a silver bullet to this. There isn't a quick shortcut to controlling your mind, not letting things get to you, or to deal with rejection. There just isn't. There is no way that these are going to be undone in a short video. So, because these would be huge, these are huge coaching topics, to be truthful. And to get to the root of all of this stuff, you'd be looking at a minimum, you'd be looking at 6 months investment of time to try and get a lasting lifetime result, or at least a minimum, an absolute minimum of 3 months of continuous personal development and growth. So if these are serious problems, if these are things that you are serious issues that you want to undertake, then I would consider really focusing on the long-term outcome that you want. What is it that you really, really are needing, and being willing to focus and buckle down and just invest the emotional, spiritual, physical, mental energy and commitment that is required to really get to the heart of these problems, because these are issues that have deep, deep roots to them. So with that said, it doesn't mean that, mindset mastery is a lifetime is a lifetime journey. We will never be able to fully control our minds. It's just not possible, because there's always going to be things that trigger us. There are always going to be things that come out of left field. So attempting to control your mind really is a waste of time. What I advocate is that you learn to control your internal responses, to be aware of what's going on inside of you, and being fully able to minimize the risk that comes from being triggered, right? So it's learning to recognize biologically the triggers, the sensations within you, and understanding what they are. So what I wanted to do, I thought would be really, excuse me, it's 1:15. I'm a bit faded. I thought it'd be really good is to share with you, just to give you a bit of science. I'm going to share my screen with you that may be able to help you understand what's going on in terms of understanding like how to get more control over your mind. So there are 3 parts to the brain that work against us, which is the limbic system. It's the animalistic part of the brain. It is primarily these 3 bits here. So if you can see here, this is the basal ganglia. And in the basal ganglia are stored your automatic responses, which is why when you encounter a situation that is uncomfortable, you kind of automatically can't stop yourself responding to it, or being anxious, or being fearful, or getting angry. Well, because you've learned to respond to certain triggers subconsciously, and they're being stored here, right here in this area of the brain called the basal ganglia. So that's thing number 1, is to remember that you have an automatic response to triggers in the environment, things that happen that are unexpected. Respond here. The second bit here, which is the hippocampus, right? The hippocampus is where your memories are stored. So your automatic response to memories, okay? And then the third piece of the limbic system, which is what's being activated when you are feeling out of control, or things are getting to you, or you're feeling rejection, is this bit here, is the amygdala. Now, the amygdala controls emotion. So the 3 pieces together, the amygdala, the hippocampus, and the basal ganglia, when triggered by an external factor, so somebody not wanting to go on a date with you, which might trigger fear of rejection, what's happening is that person says, I don't want to go on a date with you. And these 3 parts of the brain light up. Okay. And that's what the fear response is. That's what the fear response is. Now, fear of rejection is fear. Let me rephrase that. Fear, you feel it, right? And the reason you feel it is because of the amygdala, this bit here. The fear that you're feeling is real, even though it's subconscious and it can't kill you. To your body, just having that fear makes your heart beat faster, your chest tightens, your breathing is erratic, and it hurts, right? Because your body is believing that the rejection is a physical attack on you, but it's not, right? Because no, it's not just someone rejects you, you're not going to die, but you kind of feel that, you feel it intensely. What's happened, what's happened here is that somewhere in your past, somebody rejected you, because as a baby, you're only born with two fears, a fear of loud noises and a fear of falling. So if you have a fear of rejection, you've learned it, which means somebody taught it to you, which means that as an adult, this is where the disparity, this is where the pain is coming between a learned behavior that you've got that's trapped in the basal ganglia, and your adult mind, which is this bit here, the prefrontal cortex, which knows that this is ridiculous, but yet you still can't override it, because the basal ganglia, the hippocampus, and the amygdala don't talk to this bit here, which is your prefrontal cortex, which is your logic, right? So you will always respond with this bit here, which is our animal response. It's our animal impulse. It's what all mammals have. Yeah. And if you can see, it's closest to the brainstem, which controls the body, which controls movements. It controls our nervous system. So that's why dealing with rejection is so hard and it feels so painful. So one of the things that we can learn to do, although we don't naturally communicate between the prefrontal cortex and the limbic system, the basal ganglia here, we can learn to control the flow of communication. There is a 5-second delay between the thoughts that you think and your biological reaction to them. So what I teach my clients to do, what I teach people to do, is to get into that gap. And there's a couple of things that I teach. There's getting into the gap where you've got that 5 seconds between the front of the head and the prefrontal cortex and the limbic system, where you can jump in. So let me just tell you what those strategies are for that. As soon as you have a thought that is good or positive and you need to take action on it straight away, you count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you create a new thought. So you can apply that to anything. I'm having a thought that I don't like. I'm having a thought that's scary. I'm having a thought that's triggering negative reactions in me. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, think a new thought. And you can command yourself to think a new thought. That's one thing. That's the 5-second rule. That's actually by Mel Robbins. She's the person who, the proponent of that technique. Mel Robbins, she's got a YouTube, she's got a TEDx talk on the 5-second rule. You look her up, and then loads of stuff by her in relation to how to sort of interrupt that conversation between the limbic system and the prefrontal cortex. The other thing that you can do, this is one of the things that I teach my clients with radical resilience, is to put your hands on your heart, because wherever you touch yourself with your skin, hand to skin, your attention goes. And your heart has neurons in it. Your heart has the same biological structure as the brain. It doesn't have the cognitive function, so it can't do logical thinking, but it does have the same animalistic instinct. It's the same animal processing abilities as the brain does, as the brain in the head. So what I encourage you to do is to literally place your hand, and this is a practice that I do every day and I teach to do every day. And once you start to do it regularly, what you do is you create a really strong neural pathway in the brain, so that this will become second nature to you. So the point where you don't even need to in time, with practice, you wouldn't even need to put your hands on your heart. You will just learn the pathway. But this does take time, but I'll tell you what it is anyway. You place your hands on your heart, skin to skin. You close your eyes, you breathe. And you say to yourself, I am safe, I am safe, I am safe. And in doing so, you'll feel the pressure subside. You'll feel your anxiety drop. And when that happens, what you can do then, because you're in a position where if you keep breathing and just really sort of sink into that feeling that you'll get, is to start to question yourself. So with regards to rejection, ask yourself, what is it? Question the fear. So what is it about rejection that hurts so much? And, why is this so painful? Why, what is my resistance to being rejected? What is it? And so what you're trying to do is to get into the psychology of what is the fear. What is your fear really, really about? And because you are doing it through the heart, which has the same neural structure as the brain without the logic, what you'll get is the answer of, you'll get the truth of what's going on in your limbic system, what's going on in the basal ganglia, the amygdala, the hippocampus, what's going on. And you will get like a jolt. You'll get like some kind of memory flashback. The trick then is to focus on what part of you feels rejected, because there'll be a specific part of you that feels rejected, because as a grown man, this is something that you've learned. So the chances are when you start to look back and really sink deep into your own understanding, and you start to reflect and question and sort of go deep, really go deep into the point of origin of this fear of rejection. It's a learned behavior because you didn't come into the world with it. You try to find the point of our origin. When you kind of get a sense of your younger self, because it will be a younger version of you that has learned this, that was taught this, you know, that experienced this rather. The trick then is to, you experience it, is to question it. You know, is it true? You know, with your conscious mind, is what this younger version of you true? What was going on at the time when this happened? So, for example, classic one, children are so self-centered, they're so self-centric that they believe everything that happens is happening to them, you know, exclusively to, it's all about them. So, for example, mum and dad could be arguing and the child will take it, it's their fault that there's this shouting and there's this screaming, and they won't necessarily understand that, you know, mummy's on her period and daddy lost his job. Nothing to do with the child. But as children, because they don't have their vision, their understanding corrected, they grow up with a skewed perspective of what was their fault, and they start to believe that it was them, but it wasn't, and that just compounds these fears, these beliefs about rejection, and not being in control, and wanting to be perfect and having to prove ourselves. Because, well, somebody told us that we weren't good enough, and it's not true. It's absolutely positively not true. So my advice would be to sort of feel into your subconscious, go through the heart by placing your hands on your heart and really getting a good sense of what part of you is being triggered, because it's a perspective, it's just a belief. It's just a belief. There's another piece of work around shifting beliefs, but just getting into getting a vision, just being able to see what you're actually thinking is really important, because that's a starting point to be able to work through it. What you don't know, your blind spots, is what's causing you the distress and the pain and the suffering. So it's about being able to access through the heart your subconscious, yeah, which is biological, which is in your nervous system. I could show you another slide. I really could. I'd love to. Actually, let me show you another slide. This is really, really cool. Hold on. All right, so we go back here. Okay, so this is the reason. Where is it? Okay, this is your beautiful nervous system. This is my most favorite picture in the whole wide world. I think this is incredible. This is your nervous system. These are your nerves. This is what you'll be when you feel rejected, when you're feeling out of control, when things are getting to you. All that's happened, it's biology. Your brain is telling you that you're in danger or something is wrong, right? And all of these nerve endings are responding, thinking you're under attack and that they need to that you need to be defended. That's what's going on. Do you know what I mean? So although there's a lot of psychology involved, ultimately it's about biology. And the other thing is to learn to understand, to articulate your feelings. So we only have 6 emotions that get triggered, 6 biological emotions. Emotions are chemical releases, neurochemical releases into the bloodstream that the body responds to, right? And there are only 6. You can't actually see behind this, but there's surprised, happiness, disgust, anger. So let me try and remember them again. Bloody hell, hang on, Jenny, you know this stuff. So fear, sadness, disgust, anger, joy, and surprise. There are only 6 emotions. In this one, there's actually 7, but there are actually 6, right? And from those emotions, biological responses, we have feelings, which are all of these things here. And then we have more feelings that sort of extend out from that. Being able to identify how you are feeling, to be able to articulate it, to be able to have, if you can have, develop, nurture a wide language of emotion, you will find it easier to process what you're feeling and manage what you're feeling by being able to articulate it. Unfortunately for men, we don't give men the permission to really understand and explore their emotions. We shame men for having emotions, which is pretty shit. So being able to identify your emotions and call them out is a really big step in being able to control your thoughts and feelings and your reactions, or because you know what's going on. So there is a really brilliant book. I'm going to share my screen again. Please tell me I've got it on this one. There's a really brilliant book which I highly recommend. Am I on the right thing? Which is, let me see if I've got this one right. Send you a screenshot. This is a really long. Here we go. Okay, right. This book here is absolutely brilliant for teaching how to communicate with yourself, first and foremost. It's about mastering the conversations that we have with ourselves, because it's the conversation that we're having with ourselves that is creating the feelings of not being in control, of being abandoned, of feeling fear. It's what we're telling ourselves, and it can be quite violent. The things we can say to ourselves are really nasty. So like, you're useless, you're rubbish, I'm ashamed of myself, who do you think you are? Things like that. And so what he does, what Marshall B. Rosenberg's book does, is take you through a process where you start to communicate with yourself in a more compassionate, understanding, empathetic way, which doesn't do you so much psychological harm. So that's another thing that I recommend. Okay, I'm trying to sum up like 6 months worth of coaching into a couple of minutes. Right, what else was there that I wanted to share with you? 5-second rule, heart math. I wrote these things down so that I could remember. Right, the other top tip that I have is, oh yeah, the theta brain, the brain, right? So your brain has different states that you're in depending on what you're doing. So for example, when you are asleep, you are in what's known as delta sleep or epsilon, which is literally your brain goes, oh, oh. Right? That's deep delta epsilon type sleep. There is a brainwave, which is delta and epsilon. When me talking to you now, my brain is in your brain, because you're focusing on what I'm saying, I hope, is in a phase called beta, right? Which is quite lively, and you're absorbing. If you're really focusing like this, your brain is in a state called gamma, which is hyper-focused. And there is alpha, which is kind of like a slower state of beta. And then there is the most important brain stage, brain wave. It's really late, you know, brain wave, which is theta or theta, depending on how you pronounce it. Now, the reason why this brainwave state is so magical, and I'm going to tell you to get yourself in there, is because it is the brainwave state of imagination and change, right? It is the brain state that children have. It's the brain state that between 0 and 7, you're awesome at. You're just brilliant. You know you're a fucking god when you're in theta stage. We experience it twice a day, right? And it's such a powerful state, brain state to get into, because it's the only time really when the bridge between your subconscious and your conscious mind is open. So if you can get in there, in that like little, if you can get in between, if you can get into that flow, you can change your beliefs about yourself, about anything, and you can heal your life, right? So you are in the theta brain state for the first 20 minutes after you wake up in the morning, and the last 20 minutes of the day when you get into your warm, comfy bed and you're about to fall asleep. Those 20-minute chunks of the day are the time when your brain is in this really beautiful, not quite sleeping, but not awake phase. And that is when you are at your most absorbent. So what I recommend you do within the first 20 minutes of your day, in order to get control of your thoughts and to set yourself up for the day, is in that first 20 minutes, meditate. And it doesn't have to be a big like, oh my God, woo woo thing. It is literally, as soon as you open your eyes, you say, I am thankful, I am grateful, I'm alive, I'm appreciating that I'm here, I am setting myself up for a good day, I'm in control, I am the master of my thoughts. You set yourself with declarations. You declare to your brain what it is that you believe. The more you practice it, the more you will learn it, the more you will then seek to re-endorse those beliefs, right? So first 20 minutes, just create a mantra where you set your brain up for success. Do you know what I mean? And you use that every day and you start to practice. And over time, it will become second nature to you. After about 30 days, you'll start to learn it. By 64 days, it takes 64 days to really learn something. You will nail it if you do it every day and you practice and you implement. So that's the other thing, is to make the most of the theta brainwave state. You can go on YouTube and there are, oh, what do we call them? Bloody hell, my brain's died now. Me talking about brains and I've lost my own. What was I thinking about YouTube? What is it? What are they called? Tones. Oh, Boulder Dash. I'm going to have a look now because I'm literally, I can't remember. God, this is going to drive me nuts. I know this stuff like the back of my hand, but not at 25 to 2. That's it. Thank you. They're called binaural beats. They're on YouTube. You can just go on YouTube and you can access binaural beats. This is a really great one. Let me just okay. Right. You can YouTube. Bloody hell. What's that? Now I've got an advert. See, I wasn't prepared for this at all, right? Okay, let me share again. I hope you're enjoying this little show. Hope you appreciate it. Deeply appreciating it. Right, okay. Right, I don't know if you can hear. Am I sharing this screen with you? Yeah, I am. I don't know if you can hear. I hope so. Actually, you might not be able to. Oh, bollocks. If you, I'm so sorry, I'm just losing it. If you can't, pop on YouTube and watch this video. You'll understand what I'm talking about. Basically, binaural beats are sound waves that synchronize with your brain and that you can use to manipulate your consciousness, right? So that's why I wanted to share that screen with you, so that you can just have a play around YouTube, check out the brainwave frequencies. And like I said, using these frequency brain trainings, you can start to reprogram your thoughts. So things like, once you do the work of accessing your subconscious and finding out what exactly is it that is triggered in you, what is it, where does this belief of rejection come from? Once you start to identify it, what you can then do is, using those sound waves, those binaural beats, start to reprogram and retrain your brain into thinking new thoughts, because ultimately what you're doing is you're creating new habits. You currently have habits of thinking that are tricking you into believing that you need to respond, that you have to respond to external triggers, to other people, to people upsetting you, to people annoying you. You have to respond to people in a certain way. You've learned that behavior. That's all it is. It's learned behavior. You can unlearn it, but it does take discipline. It does take practice, and there is no shortcut, I'm afraid, to lasting change. You have to do the work. So there you go. It's a lifelong commitment, I'm afraid, my friends. But it's good, because once you start down this road, what's brilliant about it, what's so exciting, is it opens up so much in terms of self-discovery, and you start to make better connections with other people. The more you start to understand yourself, it's almost like when you're triggered by fears, it's like you're too close to you're like this against a picture. You're just really, really close. You just can't see the whole picture. You can only see this bit. You're right up against it. So what you're doing by going on this journey of unpicking, of unlearning, because that's what it is. All it is in the journey of unlearning. You start to step back, yeah, and you start to see more of the picture, and you start to see the frame. You want to be at the point where you can see the picture of your life, and you can also see the frame that it's within, and you start to see that other people aren't trying to screw you over. Other people aren't hurting you, not deliberately. No one's got the time. We're all so selfish and focused on ourselves that most people, unless you're a complete psychopath, you haven't got, or sociopath, you haven't got time to be malicious to other people. And if you are attracting people who are horrible, then truthfully, something in you is reflecting that behavior back at you, because we attract the people that we attract what we are into our lives. So it's often important to just take a look at your life and to see the kind of people, the kind of interactions that you're having, because whether you like it or not, a lot of that behavior that you are experiencing is subconsciously being sent. You're sending a signal out to other people to treat you that way, because we teach people how to treat us. So until you learn how to treat you better, other people ain't going to treat you better, because we get what we tolerate. So it's about self-love. This is a journey of self-love. This is a journey of self-empowerment. This is a journey of acceptance and forgiveness of yourself and of others. If you are holding grudges, it's like drinking the poison, hoping someone else will die. You're the one that's suffering. Having unforgiveness towards others is going to cause you suffering, and you will never have mastery whilst you are holding anger, negative energy towards others. You will never master your own mind, because you will always be at the mercy of someone else triggering you. And that's not what you want, ultimately. That's not self-governance. And that's truly the name of the game. So this is a really long video, much longer than I bloody anticipated. I hope it was of value for you, my friends. Yeah, let me know how you go. Set yourself a morning intention. Be kind to yourself. Really, really be kind to yourself, because it's hard. It's hard being human. But surround yourself with good people. Allow your vulnerability to show. Let people get to know the real you. Set boundaries about what is acceptable. Learn that people are people, ultimately, and some people are going to hurt you, but it's how you respond to that hurt that matters. How you respond to that behavior ultimately is what will define the outcome. All right, my friends, it's bedtime for me. It's so late. Adios, amigo. Take care. Bye-bye. Go ahead.